Preservation of the environment, promotion of sustainable development, and particular attention to climate change are matters of grave concern for the entire human family and the entire human race. Today on this BiZNation TV video podcast, we'll talk about the water crisis, sustainable development, and how leadership is a necessity during crisis and an opportunity to excel as well at the same time. So today among us, we have the co-founder and the director of LIVPURE Private Limited, Mr. R.S. Rajan. A very warm welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining. A few words in your presence, please.
Thank you so much. And it's really a pleasure to be with young leaders like you who are taking messaging around the world. Thank you
so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining. So as we move ahead in this video podcast today, I'll just begin with our initial topic of conversation, that is the water crisis, and which is being rightly addressed by Mr. R.S. Rajan as well. So, sir, I'd just like to ask that what is the water crisis situation when we talk at the world level? And do you see the alarm bells ringing in a decade from now, or what is the current situation according to you?
The current situation is very grim, and the word crisis itself says it all. And I think if you don't make radical changes, right now, over 1 billion people don't have access to safe drinking water. By 2030, almost 2/3 of the world will have this challenge in front of them, unless we take radical steps to do rainwater harvesting, water preservation, recycling of water. And it has to be a total holistic 360-degree approach.
Okay, so sir, when we talk about water harvesting and anything to save water and how we can deplete actually wasting water. So before that, the main thing today when we talk about is it is about water purification. Before we are wasting water, we need also to have the access to clear or pure water. So I'd like to ask here that how water purification needs to be determined according to, and when today as such today when we talk, there are multiple sources of water. So what is the right source and what is water purification that needs to be addressed, how it needs to be addressed according to you?
I think it's a very apt and pertinent question. And in contemporary times, because of the bludgeoning population and urbanization, the water stress is acute. So therefore, the supply of water is coming not from one source as it was earlier. It is coming from 3 sources. So it comes from the municipal tap, it comes from tankers, and it also comes from borewell. So you need not just one technology, you need a whole process. You need a whole water purification process, which takes care of almost 200 contaminants which come into water, which are namely bucketed into physical contaminants, chemical contaminants, and bacterial germicidal contaminants. So if you have just one fixed technology, it's not going to work, because nobody knows what is going to be the source of water when the water shortage is there. So it is important to have literally a mini bottled water plant in your home so that it can take care of all sorts of contamination, whether it is physical, chemical, or germicidal.
All right. So, sir, when we talk about water purification, Diplo Technologies has also been into that kind of industry, into water purification industry. So I'd just like to ask here that what is LIVPURE Technologies and how are you working on innovation and development in the water purification at the same point of time?
You see, I think LIVPURE's calling card, when it started and launched into the industry itself, one of the fundamentals was innovation. So we were the first ones to introduce a touch purifier, which was a smart and an intelligent purifier, which told you how much water is purified, when to change your filters, where to call for service, and whether you needed one glass, one bottle of water, you had a switch to just push and get, so that you don't waste any water. So innovation has been the fundamental and the foundation of our Crusader brand.
Okay. And sir, when you just mentioned that you need to have a water purification system at home itself, so does LIVPURE Technologies or does LIVPURE as a brand cater to set a particular kind of technology? If you could just mention that, and we could reach out to the wider audience to have such kind of technology at the vicinity of their homes as well.
Yeah, so LIVPURE has been reaching out to make it a very inclusive solution for water purification.
Right.
We have the school ambassador program where we reach out to the below the line poverty stricken people. Also, we have children testing their water and telling them about the fundamentals of keeping their water safe. On the technology end, we have a range of purifiers and also innovative business modules. Like today, there's a LIVPURE smart technology where you can fix a purifier in your house and pay as per use. You can literally have it as something which is at your disposal without having to invest in that
Mhm.
machine. So you have water as a solution, and you can pay as per use, just like your DTH.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So as you rightly mentioned, pay as you use and a DTH cable operator, it is also same kind of thing as you just rightly mentioned to replicate the thing. So sir, when we talk about water purification, we talk about sustainable development, we talk about purification of water, but there are multiple events and conferences happening at the political front. So, talking about those conferences, do you think leadership summits happening on climate change are making any difference at all towards the sustainable practices, which we need to adapt as an individual as well?
See, we have degraded the planet for over 50 years. Almost
Mhm.
60% of the living beings have become extinct. So these conferences are a wake-up call. Earlier, we had the Millennium Development Goals. Now we have the Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 in number. So if you look at the urban and the rural sectors, in the industry, you can pursue these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are becoming very important for ensuring that we get into more and more green chemistry, we go into carbon credits to ensure good practices. And today the
Right.
consumer is very aware because of the digital and the social media. So he's not going to buy products which are abusing the resources. You are
Mhm.
going to be using renewable resources. You are going to ensure more and more green chemistry. And these forums, they play a big role in creating the awareness and igniting and inspiring the thought leaders to go out and act in their space. In the rural sector, for example, recently I was in a conclave where we were talking about sustainable agriculture, use of drip irrigation, and use of more and more organic produce to ensure that we are creating nutrition security. And the time is not far off, where instead of carbon credit being the only mantra, you will also have water security
Right.
and water credits.
Okay. So, sir, when we talk about these conferences happening at a international platform, we as an individual also have some responsibility to the environment, to the nature, which we have been using since so many years now. And I would not just say using, we have been exploiting it. So, up to many levels. So, what should be an individual's contribution to sustainable development if you could pass on a generic message to the population?
You see, we had in our own country the father of the nation, and he once said, "Be the change that you want to see." So the change has to begin in small, decisive steps with ourselves. Let me give you
Right.
three examples. Why don't we have sprinkler taps in our house instead of a free flowing taps? Because you just need that much water to wash your hands. That will
Okay.
save almost 40% of the water. Number two, uh, this is more for the men. We used to have shaving mugs. They've become out of fashion now. That used to take only 100 ml of water. And today, when we shave under a tap using the sandwich blades and sprinkle the water to cleanse it, we are using 4 liters of water. So just imagine, from 100 ml, we've gone to 4 liters of
Four
water in
liters.
average usage. And if 1 billion people are even shaving, I'm saying out of 7.5, even if 1 billion people are shaving, that's 4 billion liters of water being wasted. And
Right.
third is, why have power showers when you can do with a bucket bath? I know it feels good to massage your body, but at what cost? I mean, you can do a bucket bath vis-a-vis a power shower, and we would probably save per family about 100,000 liters per annum if we become a little conscious. So be the change
Absolutely.
you want to see.
Okay. So, sir, you have been into leadership funnel for over years now. You have been a leader, you have been a co-founder, director, and an entrepreneur for decades. And there would have been many challenging leadership situations which you have been facing over the years. So, how do you consider making out an opportunity out of a crisis?
See, The crisis doesn't come announced. So as a leader, you got to be on your feet leading by example. But a leader has a role to play in developing winning teams. It's about igniting and inspiring teams. It's not about himself. So there's no leader who can succeed on his own. He has to build powerful teams. And a leader does not have the luxury of suffering. He only has the responsibility of leading. So he has to lead his team through various crises, whether it be an accident or it could be a flood. Today it is the COVID pandemic. So use of innovation, digitization, inspiring people to go beyond a certain limit is important. And when that happens, uh, there's a lot of magic that can happen. Even a crisis situation is an opportunity to excel. And the teams which have done it, they have done far better using crisis as an opportunity than even in a normal situation. So firmly, one of my beliefs is that you don't win the silver or the bronze, you only lose the gold. So no matter what the situation is, go for it and try to excel.
Okay, so these are some beautiful messages being passed about from your from your knowledge, vast knowledge. So, sir, as we are having a conversation about leadership and how a leader is not about suffering, but also waking up to the challenges and acting accordingly, I will just ask from your experience that if a young entrepreneur and or an aspiring businessman is looking up to this conversation from you, what will be an advice which you will pass out to them so that they can keep on going into the business even if they are not having the required amount of success which they think they should initially have had? Because when we have just passed through we are just passing on through the post pandemic period, right? And many of the businesses are not performing to the level which they think they needed to. So what will be your advice to those young individuals, or what will be your advice to those business owners, that what should help them, or what should make them to keep sustained during this point of time to act accordingly in their business? What should be your advice for that?
So one thought and one advice. For a leader to succeed and for an entrepreneur to succeed, number one quality that is required is integrity of intent. You don't build businesses to sell them. You build businesses to run them. So you got to be passionate. You got to believe in your cause, and your intent must be very, very genuine. The moment you have integrity of intent, everything else will fall in place. Your policies, your approach towards your stakeholders, your values, everything will fall in place. So that's the first thought that I want to install in the young entrepreneurs who want to get into business. The second point that I want to make is always think big, dream big. It does not matter whether you succeed partially or fully. Just think big, dream big, because I'd rather that people account for big failures than celebrate small successes. Because if we want to take India to a $5 trillion economy, you got to think and dream big. You got to think that you are no less than anybody else in the world and actually go for the jugular.
All right. All right. This was a beautiful conversation, sir. I have also personally learned a lot from your experience. Thank you so much for joining. Sir, anything you would like to add on before we conclude this video podcast today?
No, I think it was a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the finesse that you bring to the table. And I wish you all the best. And I'm very happy and very grateful to be a part of this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Very good to have you. A very good evening. Thank you so much.